Welcome to Zoom In, Zoom Out, your global look at news from Taiwan. I'm Reece Ayers. When it comes to LGBTQ policies, Taiwan has made leaps and bounds in the last decade. And with Taiwan's presidential and legislative elections happening at the beginning of 2024, now's the time to look at LGBTQ+ representation in the government. To discuss LGBTQ+ participation in politics, we're joined online by Jennifer Liu. Jennifer is the Director of Asia Programs at Outright International, which is an advocacy group for LGBTQ+ people. Jennifer was also one of the leading roles in the campaigns that led to Taiwan eventually legalizing same-sex marriage. Thanks for joining us, Jennifer.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Jennifer Liu.
Let's zoom in first on the subject of LGBTQ+ representation in Taiwanese politics. Can you give us an idea of how far Taiwan has come in terms of LGBTQ+ policies in the last few years?
Sure. So, of course, everybody knows that Taiwan passed the marriage law, same-sex marriage law in 2019. We also passed the co-adoption rights. So that means same-sex spouse, they can adopt non-biological kids through our adoption system, the social welfare system. And in the beginning of this year, the foreigners can get married if they even come from the country haven't legalized same-sex marriage, besides Chinese. And there are some discussion related to transgender rights as well, but unfortunately, we see more backlash recently. But in general, I see Taiwan has been very successful recently, and I'm really excited about that progress.
So the battleground for LGBTQ people is constantly changing. Can you tell us a bit more about some of the issues that we're still facing today in Taiwan?
I think in general, the artificial reproduction technology, or we can say alternative reproduction system, right now in Taiwan, the government still only allowed straight couples who already get married to use this kind of assisted medical support. That means a single woman or same-sex spouse already get married, you are not allowed to seek for the medical support to have your own baby. So in Taiwan, in general, the surrogacy is not allowed either. So for those families, they want to have their own baby, they need to fly to other cities, other countries to experience the whole IVF treatment process. In Taiwan, a single woman and any woman, you are allowed to frozen your egg, but you need to get married to take them out. That means you need to have your husband's signatures, which is, I think, is really honestly ridiculous, because that is my egg.
We're having this population crisis. Yeah, here's a solution, but the government don't seem to be considering it at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, the government really hesitate to change that because a lot of discussion have a lot of different opinions. To respond the population crisis, we think is a very easy policy changing direction to make sure that people who want to have their own baby, they can have the support system from the society. And yeah, that's actually a quite easy step.
Talking about the government, another issue that you've been working on is getting more LGBTQ+ politicians to run for office. So can you give us a better idea of the current level of queer representation in Taiwan's government? You know, roughly how many are we looking at?
A lot of people outside Taiwan might think we are very progressive, but in terms of the politician, the LGBT community participate in politics, the percentage actually was quite low. And right now we only have, I think, 2 to 3 the city councilor level politician who already come out. For example, like Miao Boya, who is a lesbian candidate in the Taipei city. And everybody knows she's female and is a lesbian, but she has a very muscular outfit. But if you see people's reaction to her campaign, and you can see a lot of support actually. And so I truly see there's changes tremendously in these few years after we passed the marriage law. Of course, we hope the percentage can reach to the percentage of the population of LGBT community. So you can see the representation make changes in the political areas, and especially in the city level, because a lot of community work in the rural area or smaller city or county area, those seats still occupied by very patriarchy traditional politicians. So of course, we hope more young people, not only from LGBT community, but the young people support the equality, can participate in the local and central level as well.
And as you know, we're in the midst of Taiwan's general election, and some activists have created actually a voter guide to help the public identify candidates with more LGBTQ plus friendly policies. So our reporter Tiffany Wong actually went out and made a story all about this. Take a look.
友善政治进国会，彩虹选民站出来。
Holding lawmakers accountable, these LGBTQ activists are pushing for Taiwan's public officials to speak out on gender issues. And they've launched a voter guide called Pride Watch for the upcoming national and local elections.
对于整个社会来说，可以有对性别友善的政治人物，还有对政治议题关注的民众，其实是一件非常重要的事情。
The activists invited all presidential, legislative, and local candidates in Taiwan to sign a statement of support for LGBTQ rights on the online platform. Voters can use the platform to search for candidates' voting records. The website also encourages members of the LGBTQ community to register to vote.
Jennifer, let's zoom out now on the wider issue of political access for LGBTQ plus communities. So we just saw this guide that's calling for more LGBTQ plus friendly politicians in Taiwan. Most recently, presidential candidates Lai Ching-te and Ke Wen-je also signed pledges to support sexual diversity. So does that mean initiatives like this are working, do you think?
Yeah, and also the presidential candidates, they do listen to the general public and the younger generation compared with previous ones many years ago. So I think it's a good sign, and then it's a very good progress. But it's still very important from the civil society perspective to see how's the implementation in the future. So during the campaign, a lot of promises and commitment will be there, right? But I think for the activists and the LGBT organizations, it's important for them to have the Pride Watch, this kind of platform, to continuously to monitor and supervise what's the level of the implementation in the future when the candidate got elected. And then so the information and the data will be there. So for the voters, they can also come back to see from their perspective, and also they can do the data analysis or the recording by themselves.
So I want to draw now from your work with Outright. You advocate for more politicians who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. How is that different from a politician who is LGBTQ plus friendly, but perhaps not necessarily a member of the community themselves?
Yeah, of course, it's important to have allies anywhere, because LGBT community, honestly, we are so small, right? For from most of the research, we're around like 5 to 10% percentage of the whole population. But we still think it's important from our right perspective. That's why we have our GLIDE initiative, the stand for Global LGBTIQ and Inclusive Democracy and Empowerment Programs. So that means we hope the whole democracy, narrative can also include LGBT leaders. And also at the same time, the political leaders could be different if they see LGBT people be a part of their group. For example, one city councilor shared with me one time when she got elected, she can feel the whole atmosphere in the city council become different. If you see someone in front of you, that change like everything, because that's a real person, that's a real life just next to you.
Is Taiwan ready for an openly gay president? Would an openly gay president candidate win an election in Taiwan?
In that case, I'm not so sure, because I think we still need to work on more, because in my observation in the metropolitan city, for example, like in Taipei, in Kaohsiung, we see the voters care about the policy and the issues the candidate care about, and not really focused on like their own personal either identity or sexual orientation. But in the more rural area and smaller city and county, we know some candidates who from the community, but still try to not to talk too much or not to reveal their identity, because their voters or their campaign team told them not to do so. I will say we still need to push more the gender equality education, and then to make sure the gaps can be filled between the bigger city and smaller cities.
And how are other countries around the world doing on this front in terms of representation in government? Do you have some numbers, or who should Taiwan be looking to as an example?
Yeah, I have worked and had some discussion with the member of the parliament from Australia who are really devote themselves in the political movement. Also from UK, and also from the United States. And there are some point representation from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in different countries. I think it is truly a positive sign, especially a lot of government in Asia still arguing that LGBT issues is like a Western intervene. So that means it's kind of the propaganda or something like Western countries wants to force Asia culture to be changed. But that is totally not the case. I think either Taiwan, Nepal, or Thailand, that actually cover, East and Southeast Asia, right? So we all have these countries to say that LGBT is a part of our traditions, our societies, our friends and family. So I think it's a good sign. I would say we still have a lot of things could be done. And also, I think it's a very important statement from the political parties. Of course, right now we see the presidential candidates, they are having their own statements. But from the parties, how much they can devote to support LGBT rights and then LGBT colleagues, brother and sisters.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Jennifer. That was very insightful indeed.
Thank you.
Well, this has been Zoom In, Zoom Out. You can find more news from TaiwanPlus on YouTube and Facebook. But for now, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.